today's episode of our Nigerian Hustle series, we are fortunate to be joined by Ms. Ekib that you see on screen today. You're gonna find out a lot more about her and why she's just like phenomenal in all areas. Besides hair, fashion, you can see all that already. She's also a bicontinental barred attorney. She did it both in the United States and in Nigeria. And we're gonna find out more about that today, but also about her as a person. So we welcome Ekib Ekure to the program. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. It is truly an honor and a pleasure to be on here with you today. Hi.
Feelings mutual. Thank you. I usually start this, like a lot of times we focus on what someone's doing now, but I always think it's interesting, especially with Nigerians, where we've lived all over the globe, to start from the beginning and kind of get that foundation. So can we find out where you were born?
Yes, I was born in Teaching Hospital in Calabar, Cross River State Represent. I spent 8 years in Cross River State, and then stayed in Lagos for about a year because we're preparing to get our visa to travel to the overseas, and then went to moved to Columbia, South Carolina, and that's kind of where I grew up. So Columbia, South Carolina is my elementary, middle school, high school, college. So I spent a lot of my formative years in South Carolina.
Okay. And how old were you, if you can recall, when you moved to South Carolina?
I was 9. I was 9 years old. I remember quite vividly. I was 9 years old because, funny story, I was supposed to be in the 5th grade because I'm smart and had been skipped a few grades, when I was in Nigeria, because she was genius. Okay, but when I got to the U.S., 9-year-olds are typically in the 4th grade, and they were like, "Yeah, she can go to the 5th grade if her transcript says so." But my dad was like, "No. She needs to be in the 4th grade with her peers so she can accumulate, gets accustomed to the way the system is here. It's because it's not like Nigeria; it's different." Like, all right, fine.
Can you tell us some good memories that you have of growing up in Rivers?
Cross River State to me was obviously home, right? The village, my home village, was about 3 hours away, and the city itself where we grew up, a lot of my mom's friends were there. It's because that was the city. You leave the village and go to the city. So I had a great time. I was pretty much like, my mom had just me, so I was raised like an only child, so it was great. People said I was spoiled. I don't believe that, because I don't think I could ever be spoiled. But it was fun because, Christmas time came around, and, you could go to the village, and my best memories of being in the village was always Christmas time. This was back in the day before COVID and, creeps. You can go around to people's houses, and they'll give you rice for Christmas, or give you money, and at the end of the night, you gather all the money that you have and you buy suya and you think you're killing it. Like, I am an adult. You know what I'm saying? Like, making it rain. And this was back in the day when 10 naira was something. What's up? This was back when that was like, what? And it was red and it was great. So yes, Christmas was definitely one of my favorite times growing up in Cross River.
That's really cool. You ever come back for Christmas now?
No, so it took me a long time before I could go back for Christmas. And, when you're traveling from here, it's very expensive, So I haven't gone back. I haven't gone back for Christmas since I left Nigeria from after law school. I want to. I really do. I really do want to. But I'm looking at these tickets and I'm like, all right.
That's the price you said it was. But
what can I get it for? I'm trying to call up Delta Airlines. I'm like, can we negotiate this? Like, sir, what? That's a whole mortgage. What are you talking about? A whole one.
For real. I think a lot of Nigerian diaspora children sometimes either say one of two things. They either say they had no idea that they were moving to a different country because they were either too young or their parents never really gave them the whole tea, or remember the conversation with their parents explicitly.
Yeah.
Which camp do you fall into?
I am in the remember the conversation with my parents explicitly, because my dad lived in the US. So my parents were in a bicontinental relationship. So he used to come once a year and would always say, yeah, I'm working to get you guys over here. I didn't want to go. I did not. Because I didn't know, I was like, I don't know what's over there. And when you're growing up, this is before social media. I didn't know what the US was. All I knew was white people. That's all I knew. I was like, and funny enough, my perception of the US was the sound of music, which is not even America.
Interesting.
Not even America. It's not even, I didn't know anything. Like, I didn't know anything about white people. I didn't know about America. All I knew was it was cold. And my cousins told me that I should be happy to go to America because I didn't have to wear a uniform to school. I was like, that's stupid. So what do people wear to school? You can just walk into class with your bathing suit? Like, that's dumb. Like, I was like, no.
Basically.
Like, I didn't know what to expect. And then obviously none of my family members had been to the US, or the ones who had been hadn't come back to tell me the story. So the ones in Nigeria were the ones giving me the tea.
Yeah.
And it was wrong. Like, one auntie said, when you go there, you don't drink water. You don't drink water like that. They drink juice. So I'm thinking, my 6-7-year-old mind processing is, if they don't drink water, how do they bathe? Because where's the water, right? And then when I got on the plane, I was like, you see, somebody smelled must. I'm like, you see, that's because they don't have water. They don't bathe.
So everything was confirming.
Everything was confirming my fear. I didn't want to go. People were excited, like, oh, you're going to America. I'm like, I don't want to go. Did not. So I think that's why I'm still like, because I think that's why I'm still kind of like rooted in Nigeria, because originally I never wanted to come to the US. I mean, I'm happy to be here now, but as a child, it was like, I'm leaving my friends, I'm leaving the things I know. I don't know what's going on over there. Like, why? We couldn't pack all my clothes and, no.
Get somebody else to do it.
No, but for real, get someone else to do it. Give me.
And I like that you said that, because I think the media and like agendas of other people always push this narrative that like people are so desperate to move to not just America, any westernized society, that they view it as like the kingdom coming of Christ, and they just feel so lucky and fortunate. And I'm not saying those people don't exist, but I like you hearing, and I think a lot of people maybe can relate to you not being hype at all.
I was not hype. I was not. I was like, I was a 7-8-year-old, like, get somebody else to do it. It's not for me. It's not. Like, and it was just like the first year, even like my first year in the US, I was not happy. I was like,
can you talk about that more? How was the transition? I don't know if you went in the summer or you went in like the fall, so you were straight in school, or how was that?
So thankfully we came in the summer, which was great. And also we lived in South Carolina, which is not like the DMV area that's like cold. Like y'all get actual all 4 seasons. South Carolina does not. So, and there's another thing too, I didn't understand. So I thought everything we knew about America was it's cold, it snows. My cousins had traveled before us and they went to Greece. And I remember all of the preparations they did for them to go to Greece. They bought them winter coats, they bought them long, all these things for them to stay warm. When it was our turn to travel, guess what they did? They sold us one kente cloth jumpsuit. And I'm like, where's my jacket? So, no, you get those things there. I was like, so you prefer for me to freeze right when I get to, because the country is cold. That's all I know. It's cold.
That's all you know. Yeah.
That's all I know. I was very disappointed with all of my family members for not chipping in to buy me a coat. And another reason why I didn't want to go. So, but when we got to the US, it was summer. So thank God we didn't go. We didn't, because baby, it was hot. Okay.
In South Carolina.
It was June in South Carolina. Ooh. Oh, thank you. It was hot. So the transition, at least for weather, was not terrible, because it wasn't as cold as other places. It was still cold for us, because the coldest we get is Hamatan, where you need a light sweater. It was doable. The biggest transition for me was going to school, because you're dealing with other people and the ignorance of others. And that was something that I was still trying to figure out how to navigate. And in a way, I think I'm still trying to figure out how to navigate it now without losing my bar license. You're dealing with ignorance from children, and you're dealing with ignorance from adults. As an adult, I can appreciate the ignorance of children because they're children. They don't know any better. It's whatever your parents are downloading into you that you get. But adults who were saying some of the craziest things to me as a child, I'm just like, and you're the ones entrusted with my education. This is why South Carolina's down, okay? This is why we're on the bottom of the public. Like, my first day of school, obviously Nigeria was colonized by the British, so we speak English. Heck, I speak English better than my own language, okay? Much better. So now imagine my surprise when I go to class And it is, they broke it up in fourth grade. We had two teachers, one who did English and history and another one who did math and science. So my homeroom teacher is the English and history teacher. She looks at me and she starts yelling. First she says, we have a new student, she's from Africa. Then she starts yelling, do you understand me? And I'm just like, so I am an emotional child. Anybody would tell you that I was an emotional child. I bust out crying because why is this woman yelling at me on the first day of school? It's already weird. Like, I had never seen a white person this close before, but why is she yelling at me? Is this how all white people do, right? So I start crying and she's like, oh my God, she doesn't speak English. So I respond back with, yes, ma'am, yes, madam, I speak English. She goes, oh, thank God. I'm just like, well, you teaching history? Not even that. It was like the fact that the teachers did not even bother to try to understand where your foreign student was coming from, right? Because if I didn't speak English, don't you think they would have notated it on my file that I didn't speak English? And so it was a lot of it for me when I first got to the US, and when it was just throughout my education, from elementary school to high school, it was a lot of me fighting to prove that I was smart, because immediately they saw my name. Immediately they realized I was African. It was like, I remember that same fourth grade, that same first year, they told me I had to go to summer school. Now, my dad is a professor, and you know, African parents, whatever your teacher says is true. Teachers don't, why would the teacher lie? Why would she lie? Why would she lie? And they were trying to convince my dad. They sent a letter. This wasn't a mandatory summer school, right? And this is how you know they were sneaky. It wasn't mandatory summer school. It was a suggestion, okay? Some people don't get suggestions for summer school. It's, nah, you failing, go to summer school. But I got a suggestion to go to summer school. And I told my dad, I don't need summer school. He's like, yes, you do, because they're saying that you need summer school. I'm like, bro, look at my grades though. Like, I'm making A's and B's. I done been on every A, B honor roll we got. Why would I need summer school? And I don't know, they say you need summer school. You know why they said I needed summer school? So I can learn English.
Still, like, they're saying that.
Yeah, I was like, bro,
interacting with you. Summer school at the end of the year, right?
Exactly. And baby girl came out with a 96 in English. I said, baby, I can teach you English. Yeah, so dealing with the ignorance from adult, like, I mean, kids said some crazy stuff too, and I'm just like, you know what I'm saying? The people like assigned to teach and educate and still had the most ignorant things to say to me. And it was, for me though, I think that kind of ignited that advocacy inside of me, because from a young age, I had to learn to advocate for myself when it came to my education, because I was the first one. My dad has other children, but I was the first one that he was with going through elementary school and middle school. So I had to open the doors for my niece that was behind me and my little sister, because I had to advocate, because my parents didn't know.
Right.
They just, you know, like in Nigeria, when a teacher says something, it's true.
And it's not racially motivated. It's not motivated in xenophobia and ignorance.
Exactly.
And wanting to see you fail, kind of.
Exactly. So in that sense, and also my dad is a professor, so he knows how he behaves with his students. So there's no reason for him to assume that this teacher is, you know, coming from a place of malice or coming from a place of racism or xenophobia, like you said. So I had to learn from an early age to advocate for myself in the type of classes I needed to take, because I knew I was going to go to college and I knew the classes I needed to get into, and I had to fight like, no, I need to be in honors classes. No, I need to be in these types of classes. No, I need to take this. I need to take this because I need to go to college. But coming from a place like South Carolina, sometimes it's super masked racism, right? Super masked, you know, bless your heart. Oh, she's so sweet. Oh, you know, stuff like that. And you see my name, you just assume, nah, she's not going nowhere. I'm like, psh, joke's on you.
I wish you could find out that you're a lawyer, double barred.
Exactly. And I think, so it's like when you start doing stuff, like, thankfully, I don't think about them like that.
Right.
You know, there are times where, like, when I was graduating from law school, like, I remembered my guidance counselor in 9th grade who did not think I needed to take more advanced classes, right? Who just thought like I didn't need to take college prep classes. She was just like, no, you're fine here. And even though my test scores were out of the water, my grades were out of the water, she was just trying to keep me in just basic courses. It wasn't until I got a Black guidance counselor in high school who would literally like come into the classroom and be like, Ekib, I need to see you. And be like, all right, have we discussed these colleges? Or if she caught me applying to colleges that were way too safe, she's like, no, absolutely not. You're going here. And it wasn't because those schools were bad. She was like, no, I need you to be in a place that you will be challenged. You know, taking me to college tours, talking to me about what it looks like to, you know, so it definitely matters when you have people that care about you, because like I said, once again, I was the first. So my parents don't know what's going on, right? And they don't understand how it's happening. So I had to do it. So that when my sister is getting ready to do it, my parents have a better understanding, okay, of what it is. And then she obviously has me to talk to her about, you know, how things can work. But when you're the first person going through it, it's hard.
Yeah.
But you do it.
But do you have any, obviously, mass migration from Nigeria, especially to the US, is a booming thing that's probably not going to change anytime soon. And there are probably so many kids and teenagers out there in your same situation whose parents, this may be their first time experiencing some things that you experience on a day-to-day basis in the school, but it's hard to articulate to them because they're looking at it from why exactly what you're saying, but their job is to educate without all these other biases. If you have any advice for maybe like an oldest sibling or like an only child on how to maybe talk to their parents about these issues?
Child, let me tell you, like, it's not gonna happen overnight, because I remember the comments, I was having conversations in the 4th grade, like, but also I'm the kind of person where like, I do it myself. I'll just do it. So if you're that older sibling or an only child, you already have the responsibility of having to do it by yourself, first of all. So you have to find a way to make your parents understand however that is. Show them, set up a teacher conference or something and lead the parent-teacher conference, have the conversations. You have to get it. And also another thing too is get it in writing. If you can, from your teachers, get that stuff in writing, because why? I want to know if you like, especially for people like they're trying to pull you back, like, oh, you can't go to this. Well, why can't I take those classes? I want you to explain to me and my parents why I can't take those classes. Encourage your parents to get in there. I think the best way to do it would be remind them that these people are messing up with your education, because, you know, African parents love to remind us, I didn't bring you to this country to make friends. I brought you to go to school. And mommy, daddy, I can't be a lawyer, engineer, doctor if these people are not they don't want me to take math, or, you know, they're not trying to get me to take advanced class. You have to explain it to your parents in whatever language they'll understand, because it's getting hard. I think now it might be a little bit easier with social media and people seeing that with globalization of the globe, so people are a little bit more connected than they were before. But you have to make your parents understand. There's no formula on how to do it. I'm sorry, because everyone's parents are different, but you have to find a way and speak to your parents in a language they'll understand constantly, because this is your future. This is something that you're going to have to deal with, because I don't think that if I had just sat down and said, okay, what would I be doing now? So you have to find a way to make sure your parents understand that this thing is happening right now. I think that parents have a better understanding now, because I remember like my mother, she didn't really understand racism. There were the microaggressions and stuff that, you know, she kind of just like brushed off her shoulder, like, oh, you know, people just being people. It wasn't until she took an African American studies class, she's like, yeah. So it's so hard for parents to understand. They go through it worse than us, because when your parents come, they still have a very thick accent for the most part. No matter how intelligent they are, no matter how worldly they are, just the fact that they sound African, they go through it as well. If they're not in school, they don't go through it obviously the same way that you would go through it as a child. So you just have to find a way to make your parents understand. Like, there's no formula for it. I'm sorry.
I think that's really good advice. And what about the social part? You spoke about what we hear a lot. We're not here to make friends and all that.
Yes.
How is it for you? You've talked about how you have to advocate for yourself in the educational aspect of going to school, but obviously there's a social aspect also of going to school. Was that transition from Nigeria to elementary school, middle school, high school? How was it? Let's just say.
Girl, it was the whole, like, we didn't bring you to this country to make friends. And in the 4th grade, that's fine, because I didn't want to be friends with you anyways. You know, coming in at 9, that was hard, because
hard
it was right. And I was always constantly explaining something. I just don't like to have to be the person. Like, I'm not a dictionary, I'm not a thesaurus, I'm not an encyclopedia, I'm not Google, I'm not Ask Jeeves. So having to like explain the most minute things was just annoying to me. Like, someone said to me, "You speak really good. You speak English good." I was like, "I speak English well." Like, don't go, if you don't try to correct me, do it right. Having to deal with just kids not understanding. And so because they didn't understand where I was coming from, we didn't kind of get along. Now, I wasn't bullied really until I got into middle school, because middle school kids are mean. Like, I don't care whether you're immigrant or not. Middle school kids are just mean. So it wasn't until like, I know like in in elementary school, I got like side comments like, did you have to learn how to wear clothes in the airport, or did you live on trees? Somebody asked me if I had a tail. That was
of all the things I've heard in my life, I've never heard, did you have to in the airport?
In the airport, girl, in the airport. They were like, all right, now let's teach you how to dress. This is what we call a shirt. Yeah, it's what we call a shirt. Sometimes you wear it with pants, and pants are not underwear.
Special class for us coming from Africa in the airport.
Yes, okay. Yes, that's what someone thought. Either I had to learn how to get dressed in the airport and or learn English in the airport. So like the social aspect of it was, at least with Americans, really almost zero. Now, we had the kids in the neighborhood that, you stand and talk with at the bus stop and stuff, but I didn't really have close friends, American friends, like that elementary school time. There was one girl that I was cool with, so she would like, but she was also quiet. So, I think that's why our friendship worked. She didn't talk too much. It was great. But we thankfully were surrounded by a Nigerian community in South Carolina. So those were the approved kids. Those were the kids that had already been vetted. My mom used to say, keep that your friendship, keep that one in school, keep it in school. So that was it. So the vetted Nigerians, that was my community. And I think that made it a lot easier, even though we didn't go to the same school, but the fact that, we went to the same church, or, if there was an event coming up, we could go. If someone's birthday, we could go to birthday parties and things like that. So that kind of helped. In that group, I think I was the only Nigerian, not the only Nigerian, I was the only one that had immigrated. Everybody else was born in the US. So that was interesting. Yeah, it was interesting too. So yeah, it was, the social aspect of it, that's a learning experience. It truly was, because there were things that they didn't understand about me, and things also that I didn't understand about them. Like, I think we say a lot of things about, how they treated us, how they treated us. I didn't understand a lot of things they did. So I also did not force myself into relationships, because I didn't get it. I didn't understand what they were doing, why they did the things they did, how things were, because it was different. It was very different for us. Like, for us, when I was growing up, all of my friends were the neighborhood kids. We used to go outside, we used to walk to school together, do all this stuff. But here, we didn't have to. We would stand outside at the bus stop, sure, but they didn't understand me. I barely understood them. So it was kind of like growing up, there was a disconnect there. It wasn't until I got to middle school that I was like, okay, yes, the bullying happened in middle school, but then there was also there was camaraderie with some of the neighborhood kids, because at least they had seen me through elementary school, now we're in middle school together, things like that. So
let's talk about high school a bit, because this is definitely the time that you have to advocate for yourself, because college is knocking on the door. And also teenage time, social aspects become, more important. We talk about the disconnect. Were you still feeling that way in high school?
In a way, yes, because I even though I was in the US, I was still in a Nigerian household. So there were things that my American friends could do that I would never, even if I dreamt of doing it, my mother will stop me in the dream, So they were just like, we're just in a cold sweat, like, oh my God, So yes, there was definitely a disconnect there. Like, I didn't go to parties. I remember people were doing Sweet 16s. I didn't go to none of them. My job in high school was literally go to school, get involved so I can do extracurriculars. And here's the thing too, I didn't really know the importance of doing extracurricular activities, right? In elementary school, I did Girl Scouts. In middle school, I did nothing. only thing I did was I started a dance troupe for like 90, and that's because I like to dance. They used, you know me, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I like to dance. And I was just like, oh, we don't dance here, we need to dance. And so we would perform at like Independence Day parties and stuff like that, but that was about it. So I didn't understand why everybody was like, oh, you need to join this activity, you need to join. Also, this was in the ninth grade. My guidance counselor was not a lady who thought college was a possibility for me. So she wasn't telling me these are the things I needed to know. So like that first year, I didn't do anything. I was just like, I'm just going to school and going home, going to school, going home. And so I'm missing out on, I'm not making new friendships. I'm not making new relationships. I'm not getting a well-rounded education. I'm doing school, but that's about it. And then I started seeing like all the cool kids, like not cool kids, but like the cool things people were doing like pep rallies and stuff. Like, I was like, oh my God, it's kids are running these. That's crazy. Oh, homecoming, like kids are the ones on the float. Like, wait, that's what, how? Who are these people? I want to do this. Like, I want to be, because you know, I love to run around like a chicken with my head cut off. Organized.
You were hyper involved.
You know what I'm saying? I just want to do something. So it wasn't until when I got to my sophomore year of high school that I was like, okay, I need to get involved. And then also, thank God for television those days, because Disney Channel, Nickelodeon, you know, the kids, I think we grew up in a really good time for television, where like it was mirroring our lives, right? I would see on TV, kids are like, oh, college. I remember even Ren Stevens, she was just so hyper, right? I think she was so hyper involved, and she was always talking about the importance of being involved so that she can get into a good school. So I was like, oh, okay, I need to get involved so I can go to a good school. So TV taught me that, right? And then thankfully by my sophomore year of high school, I got a good guidance counselor who was also like, yeah, you need to do stuff. And by then I had already like, okay, I joined student activities, student council. Then I ran track. That ended after a semester. Then I did, right. And then I started getting involved in a whole bunch of different activities and started growing in student council. And that was my thing. Student council was my thing. So I was just, because student council ran everything, did everything. And it just helped. It just opened up so many doors for me, because so that way now I am talking to people. I'm getting to know people a little bit better. They're understanding me. I'm understanding them. I'm still not going out to parties after, you know, because my mama don't play that. Whatever y'all were doing in Euphoria, I did not experience it. I took DARE seriously, okay? The drug abuse resistance education, took that seriously. I didn't do none of that. But being involved in student council and things like that kind of just helped me to show like, okay, oh, I like this. I like to organize events and be in charge, but be in the background at the same time. I like, let's be honest, I like for people to know I'm important. No shame. No shame. I don't have to be the top dog, but at least the top 3. Period.
And I'm glad you touched on this, like, we couldn't go to parties thing.
Oh, no.
Because I can definitely relate to that.
I didn't even ask my parents for permission. I didn't even think about it, no.
Yeah. So many things that's like, I can't even ask this question. The question in itself is disrespect. You know what I'm saying? But I feel like obviously a lot of your classmates and peers know that and understand that, oh, your parents are more strict. But I think people come off with this sense that means that we don't have a good relationship with our parents just because they're more strict from an American perspective. I always say, like, my parents, if I was growing up in Nigeria, would have been on the more lenient side of things. But because I'm growing up in America, they're perceived as ultra strict, and like everyone always feels like you have this draconian military relationship with your parents. And I just wonder if you feel the same way, or...
Well, mine was a little different, right? Because I think I didn't give my parents the opportunity to tell me no. I just knew it was going to be no. I didn't even give them, they could have said yes and I'd be shocked, you know? So I grew up mostly with my mother in Nigeria, right? I didn't grow up with my dad together. I saw my dad once a year. So our relationship wasn't the way my relationship with my mom was, right? Because I saw my mom every day for 9 years straight alone. It was her. My dad would come in during the holidays, and he's the senior, one of the, he's the oldest member of his, of his family, and he had a lot of responsibilities. So he would come in, and also like Christmas time wasn't that, like, it was like 3 weeks. It was like a 3-week vacation for him, right? So he would come in, spend some time with us. We got to go to the village. You got to do this, got to do this, got to do. So I didn't really get a lot of that time. So when I had to move from from Nigeria to the US, it was kind of weird. So my dad and I really didn't have much of a relation, because I didn't know this man. Like, I knew he was my dad, but that was about it. You know what I'm saying? So we didn't have that father-daughter bond. Like my little sister, he was like, they have a, you know what I'm saying? They understand each other. They get on each other's nerves like parents and daughters do, but it's a different type of relationship. Like stuff that she would say, and I'm like,
okay.
Once again, those are the things that I felt like in my dream would knock me out. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't have that. And because I did not have that type of relationship with them, I didn't give them the opportunity to be disappointed in me. Does that make sense? I was also the oldest of the youngest, because I have older siblings, but they're out of the house, right? So for the kids that were in the house, I was the oldest, and there was a responsibility upon me. And I think I put that pressure on myself. Like when someone tells me something, I take it to heart. We brought you to this country to go to school, and we didn't bring you here to make friends. I took that personally. I was like, oh, that's how y'all want for real. So that's why I was very much hyper fixated on doing well, being involved, getting things done, because I didn't want my parents to be embarrassed or be disrespected or be disappointed. So I didn't give them the chance to say no. The only time I would ask them to be able to go do something is when I knew for a fact that it was a yes. And that was always with Nigerian kids, right? Because you know them, we can go hang out. Yes, we can do a sleepover. Absolutely. We can go to Wild Wings. Wild Wings was our spot back in the day. We could go to Wild Wings and eat and watch movies. We can do that with my Nigerian friends. But I never brought up like the American, no.
Okay.
The best thing that I could do with my American friends that I thought was okay, because my mama didn't say I thought it was okay.
Yeah.
Right. I was like, we would go walk around the neighborhood, because it's still in the neighborhood, right? Because they were that live in the neighborhood, and so we could walk around the neighborhood and things like that. So that was about it. So yeah, I didn't give them. My sister, on the other hand, my younger sister now, she'd be the one you can ask about that, because she asked all the questions. Can I go here? And most of her friends, like she's got a good group of American friends and like close American friends and close Nigerian friends. So she was able to kind of like straddle that, She called me, Mommy and Daddy is so mean. I'm like, are they? Really?
A little.
Okay.
So we kind of got through high school. Then you decided to go to the University of South Carolina.
Yes, honey.
2 questions. What influenced that decision? And at this point, are you thinking about law as a career, or are you just
trying to figure it out?
Yeah, trying to figure it out.
So what influenced that decision was cost.
Same. Yeah.
Cost.
You joking.
No, exactly. Because also, think about this. I went to school. I graduated from high school in 2009. So we're in the recession. We're in the Great Recession at this time. Yeah, we're in there right now. So cost was big for me. Because I didn't want to pay out-of-state tuition as much as, like, let me tell y'all, when I was growing up, I thought I was going to go to the University of Michigan. Why? Because I liked Sister, and they went there.
They surely did.
And it was a real school. Hillman was fake. But University of Michigan was real. So I thought I was going to go there. Until I started looking at schools, I was like, oh, out of state. Oh, you pay different when you're out of state? Absolutely not. So one pushing factors was the cost of the University of South Carolina. So it was, to me, the best bang for my buck. It was the flagship institute of the state. So it was less expensive than a lot of other schools in the state. It was still in Columbia, South Carolina. So I could be at home. But I lived on campus. So I could be at home, but not be at home. Yeah. That was it. And then also, it was big on football. I don't like football. Didn't understand the game. But I was like, if I go to a school that likes football, I'm going to have a good time.
True.
And I did. I I got a well-rounded education. Yes. So that was that. And then in terms of schooling, yes, law had always been on my mind. First, I thought I was going to be an actress, but Nigerian household, so I didn't even ask my parents to follow up on that. But law was always in the back of my mind. I thought I was going to be a psychologist because people said I gave really good advice. And I don't know I think my dad talked me out of it because he said I had to go like medical school to be able to like prescribe medication. I don't do science.
But law has some aspects of therapy and like
exactly.
And listening to people's problems
and solving people's problems and all of that. So yes, I think, and yes, absolutely. So, but law was always in the back of my mind, and I was just like, okay, let me go to the University of South Carolina for undergrad. After that, go to law school, because also at that time too, I didn't really know much about how the law school process worked. I had a cousin who was finishing up in college, and she was going to go to law school too. So I had asked her, like, what do you do? She's like, well, I'm a political science major because, I want to go to law school. And that's how she introduced it to me. She's like, I'm a political science major because I want to go to law school. So I thought I had to be a political science major if I wanted to go to law school, because when I got to when I got to college, they gave you this big old like pamphlet or brochure of all the different majors, but I didn't see law as a major. There's no pre-law.
There's no pre-law, yeah.
There's no pre-law. So I was like, well, I guess I'm doing political science then. No, terrible.
I hate that too.
Oh my gosh. I think like the worst one was my sophomore year, because I was taking a whole bunch of classes that I was like, what the heck is this? Like for me, political science did not get interested until I started taking classes focused more on the continent of Africa.
College in America is very much branded as this like finding yourself entity like moment. Like the academics are almost like secondary.
Oh, absolutely.
Academics are more important in high school in America. But once you made it, they're like, you don't have to declare a major.
Yeah, you got 2 years.
What was your definition looking back of your identity at this point? Like you'd been in America for almost 10 years at this point, but you're still imbibing a lot of Nigerian culture around a lot of Nigerians. How would you even like describe your outlook at this stage of your life?
My outlook was always don't disappoint my parents. I think it's always in the back of my mind. Like, don't come out here and be embarrassing. Don't come out here and embarrass them and be disappointed. But also, I know that I had goals for myself. At this point in college, I wasn't able to fully articulate what those goals were. But also, I knew that there was an expectation of me, right? It's came here to go to school, be successful in school, go get a law degree, be a lawyer, get married, have kids. That's the.
But this part you must do.
Yes. So I'm at this part of college, and I did not understand how college could be. And then that's why I picked University of South Carolina, which was like, it was a liberal arts college. It was just like, you know those things where you see people at the quad playing what's the thing they always play? Frisbee. Yeah. Like that hacky sack. I was like, oh, y'all some carefree white people. My God, what's today? Wow, just out here.
Like a whole college brochure, like
whole college brochure. Like your mother sent you to school and you're throwing a frisbee. Wow. Let me see it. I was like, okay. So I was very much in that. I was very rigid in the sense of, I know the plan. This is the plan. I did not give myself room to be flexible. So I kind of had to find a way to get, to kind of be flexible, like, because it was like, my mom used to tell me, she said, she always encouraged, she's like, you can't go through school and not have school go through you, right? Like, you got to be a part of it. You have to be involved. So she was one who was encouraged me to kind of get involved and do stuff. And so I also came from this high school mentality of being involved, just doing the things. So immediately I got to college, it was, all right, where can I sign up? How can, exactly, sign up. And it was great because that kind of forced me to be out there. I was always busy. So I didn't have to focus too much on, I gotta make friends, or I gotta do this, because I knew a lot of people in college. A lot of people knew me, but I only called a handful of my friends.
Yeah. And only a handful deserve that designation.
Exactly. So just going through that was just really like, okay, here's the plan, here's the plan. And also, once again, I'm still applying. I'm applying to law school. So it's kind of like I still have the high school mindset of, all right, I got to do these 4 years and then focus so I can get to college. I mean, law school. So that's kind of where I was.
Get into law school. Did you go straight? I know some people take a year off, or you went straight.
I went straight. I knew that because I don't like school. Like, y'all think I do.
You like
You would think that, right? You would think like with all the education that I have and everything, I just love school. I do not. So I said, if I took a year off, I'm not going. Even that's the same thing that happened with Nigerian Law School. I was like, if I get into the workforce, I'm not coming out, you know? So I had to go straight into, and then also I did not think that taking a year off was a possibility. Remember, people don't tell me nothing. I didn't think it was a possibility because everybody I knew, you graduated and you went into your master's program. You graduated, you went to your your PhD program or your medicine or whatever. That was just a trajectory. It wasn't until I got to law school and I realized, you could have taken time off. Because when we got there, so when I graduated college, I was just turning 22 or I was 21 so it's still like 21, 22. But when I got to law school, they gave us like the statistic of our incoming class and the average age was like 29, 30. I'm like, how did you just quit your job to come to law school? Ooh, like, why didn't you go straight forward? Like, at first I was a little like, why did y'all not come? And then when I started talking to people, like, they were like, oh yeah, no, some people it was, I had a rough time in college. I needed a break, right? Some people like, I didn't know I wanted to go to law school until a little bit later down in life, right? I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I was like, y'all are not African because your parents tell you what you want to do. They gave you a nice suggestion. Here's a list. Pick from that. That's amazing. Like, you decided on your own. Wow. Wonderful. It's wonderful.
I'm dead.
You will not die in Jesus' name.
Amen. Amen. And I find this interesting, and we'll get to this because I also felt the same way. I took just a year off, but I would still, because my birthday's in December, on the younger side when I went to law school, and just definitely like the youngest throughout. But then, as we get to the Nigerian Law School, I think both, and we'll get to this later, of us older than everyone.
Babies, what are you doing here?
I was so confused. But we'll do that when we talk about that. So, 3 years of law school goes by. When you graduate, of course, you have to take the bar exam and all that. When you graduate, what's your plan? Are you thinking about the Nigerian Law School?
Yes, actually, I was. I graduated thinking about the Nigerian Law School. And this is why. So I had been in the US since the year 2000, and I had never gone back to Nigeria until...
Wow, you've never been back.
Okay. Never been back. Remember, tickets are like mortgages. Okay? And I had never been back until 2013. And that was 2013. My uncle gave me a ticket as a gift, a graduation gift. So I was able to go back to Nigeria. I was like, yeah. I like it here. I like it here. It was funny. It was interesting. Like, obviously there were parts that were like, oh my God, I can't believe people living like this. But also things are just like, yep, this is home. This is home. Like, there's no way this is home. So I think when I came back from Nigeria in 2013, I think after a year, like after my first year of law school, my dad and I were having this conversation, and he was like, yeah, maybe you should think about going to law school in Nigeria as well. And I was like, honestly, that's not a bad idea. And my mom piped up, and she was just like, yeah, because you never know, like if you ever want to relocate, you don't have to, she said, my mom is big. She's like, Nigerians, everything they do is seniority. So you don't want to, so when you go, by the time you get, she was like, by the time you go, and if you want to go back, you won't start off at the bottom. Like, you would already have years in, so you can go now and come back. And I'm like, yeah, that's a really good idea. And so I was like, okay, yeah. So I was thinking about it. So by 3 a year, with all of my class, and I think it, knowing that I was going to go to Nigeria for law school made 3 years so much better for me, because they say your first year, they scare you to death. Your second year, they work you to death. And your third year, they bore you to death.
It's true.
It's true. But the funny note, of course, I wasn't bored because I was involved in every single organization. I was vice president of the SBA, president of African Law Students Association. I was involved. I was playing anything. I was doing more extracurricular activities than classes. I only had like 9 credit hours that I needed to graduate because I took summer school because why not? Why not? Yeah, exactly. Nobody suggested I needed to take it. They were looking at me like, "Why are you taking it? You're doing great." I'm like, "I know."
Full circle moment.
Full circle moment, like, girl. But yeah, and also, of course, law school, summer school was to get ahead, not because you're falling behind. So my third year of law school, when my classmates were all just, we're already concerned about the bar. We're already concerned about graduation. And a lot of people were concerned, of course, about trying to find a job. And I was just like, I'm going to law school after this. I'm good. And I think for me, school, as much as I don't like school, but school has always been my safe spot. I do well in school. It comes naturally to me to be successful. Like I know to work hard, I know to study, but I can build relationships in school. I can get involved in things which will put me on the radar for something or someone to notice, so it's always been a good safe zone for me. So once again, I was like, yeah, third year, yeah, I'm going to plan this big, law week event, plan a night in Africa, plan this, plan that. I mean, yeah, I go to class too and do great, excel, still graduate with honors, period. But, I wasn't as worried because I knew that I was not looking for work. I'm going to law school after this again. My professors thought I was crazy.
I was going to ask, what was the reaction of your peers and your professors?
My professors, I remember one professor, Professor Clark, God bless him. He sent me this clerkship opportunity. And I was like, I'll apply because you said so, but I'm not really looking to it. He's like, why not? I was like, because I'm going to law school after this. And he looked at me like, Mr. Ekure, are you crazy? And I was like, yes, I think so. I think I have Stockholm syndrome. But when I kind of explained to them the reason why I was going back to law school, they were like, okay, we wouldn't do it, but okay, because they know that law school is hell, good for you. If you like it, yay, good for you, not for me. It's, so I had a lot of like professors that were like interested. My classmates really too were like, okay. I had a classmate who was like, you're gonna be the president of Nigeria one day. And I'm like, first of all, I was just like, he's a girl, what? Because everyone, they knew how much I loved. I always identify as Nigerian. I don't care how many years outside, I will always, when you ask, where are you from? I'm Nigerian. And then if you want the nice breakdown of, I grew up in South Carolina, I can give that to you, but I'm always, exactly. I'm everything else, but first and foremost, I'm always Nigerian. So they knew that I really loved being Nigerian and identified with it so well. So they're like, they didn't understand why I was choosing to go back to law school again. But when I told them it was like a year, they're like, I guess.
That's another thing people don't get. And I think that, as we know, we'll get to this, Bar 1 is dominated by British friends.
Yes.
Because I think you're right. I feel like it's not presented unless you know about it.
Yeah.
Like your family knows about it. As a Nigerian-American law student, it's not even like...
It's not about... You don't think about it. You don't think about it.
We'll get to that. But it's interesting that you say you always like identify yourself to your classmates in law school as I'm a Nigerian person, and they even know you and identify you with that. Then going to Nigeria, where people treat you like, because you happen to live in America.
Yes.
Like you have no Nigerian card at all. And make all sorts of assumptions about you. And it's so funny that in America, you're like known as the Nigerian. But when you go to Nigeria, people don't know that you've been doing that your whole life.
Yeah.
And it's also not necessarily the most easy thing to be Nigerian in an environment where nobody else is. I don't know what you feel about that, going to Nigeria, even going back home for your vacation.
The thing about it is, what I used to say to people is like, I'm too Nigerian in America, I'm too American in Nigeria. So I am just floating in somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean.
What do we do?
Just trying to survive, you know what I'm saying? I was like, first of all, I didn't want to come to this country to begin with, but
Funny too. You didn't even want to go.
I did not. I did not. But yeah, it was interesting. So because I knew that when I first went back in 2013, I went as an adult, right?
Yeah.
And thought, I'm Nigerian. See my nose?
No.
Not knowing
Not as a Nigerian.
that, like, I would go to the market, I wouldn't say a word. They just look me in the face and just know.
I don't know how they know.
I don't know. Because I asked somebody, I'm like, well, they're like, son never beats you. I'm like, it has beaten me, my brother. It has beaten. What? I was like, my skin is not that great. It's not. Because in 2013, my skin was trash. It wasn't when I went back to Nigeria in 2016 that I was like, oh, wait, come to Nigeria and get a glow up. Hello. When I decided to go to law school in Nigeria, I remembered that summer of 2013 when I was in Nigeria, and I was like, okay, there's so much more to me understanding being Nigerian than loving P Square and DeVito and all of that, right? And I think that, so there was so much more to that. And so when I took the bar exam, I worked for a little bit. And when I started doing research in Nigerian Law School, because obviously, like I said, you said nobody tells you, no one knows, I realized, okay, the school system is different from the US system, where school in US starts in August. This one, Nigerian Law School was supposed to start in May, June, whatever. Whenever they decided to start. We started in July, but we're supposed to start in June.
We're supposed to start in June.
I'm supposed to June. But it's okay.
We're accepted, technically. Anyway, that's a whole different thing.
So I was like, okay, I have this American accent, and it's hard for me to, it's hard for other people to like it's hard for me to kind of get rid of it, right? Even though like I pretend from time to time. At that point, I hadn't really been exposed to a lot of Nigerians like that had just come from Nigeria, right? Because all of us, either they were born here or we've been here for a long time. The most we got in like a Nigerian accent is mimicking our parents. I decided that if I was going to go to law school in Nigeria, I needed to go there early so I can get acclimated, because I knew that I was going to be there by myself, right? There's no, like when I went in 2013, my mom was with me. But when I'm going now, I'm going by myself. Like I'm going to be in school by myself. So, and then also I hadn't spent Christmas in Nigeria. So I left December of 2016. So I got there, able to do all the tour, do Christmas, all of that. And then because I stayed in Nigeria up until time for law school, I was able to kind of get like, okay, get a flow of how things are done here. What are, the little nuances.
Smart decision.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I was
like, came in June. And as we all know, we're disastrous lawyers with that. But anyway.
Because my biggest thing was,
I took come in December too.
I had to, because I remember in 2013, this was the like wake up call for me. I went to get my nails done, and I was very shocked that they were doing nails in the market. Like this open space. Like I'm used to going to a nail shop, the fluorescent lights. What is this? And then the way they did the nails was so different. I was like, they wanted to I was like, oh, we're doing fake nails. Okay, that's fine. But I remember the lady told me how much it cost. At that time, she was like, oh, you want to do your nails? Okay, it's 700 naira. And at that time, dollar was back that was when like it was, I think 100 naira to $1 or 150 to 1 naira. Yeah, 150 to 1 naira. I mean to $1. So I did the quick maths. 1, 2, 1, 2. I said, oh, that's less than $5, right? Mistake number one. So she was like, okay. She started doing the nails. So she looks at me, she goes, my sister, so are you from the US or the UK? I said, I'm from Cross River State. She said, no.
No.
Are you from the US or the UK? I was like, I'm from Cross River State. She said, maybe that's where your people, where did you come from? And I was like, yes, I was like, from the US. She said, I knew it. And I was like, I'm sorry, how? She said, I told you price. You didn't negotiate price. I said, on top nails too, we would have negotiated price. I said, okay. Lesson number one. The education began. So I was just like, okay, they're different. So that's why I was like, okay, I need to come back. If I was going to go, I have to come back and live in Nigeria so that I can understand how things are done. And I think that made me less frustrated.
As Nigerian Americans, I think we go through so many dual experiences of the same thing, but different.
Mhm.
Her saying to you, oh, no, where are you from? Your family's from Cross River. It's so similar to what we always hear. Oh, I'm
Mhm.
saying I'm from Baltimore or whatever. No.
No.
Where are you from? It's
Right.
the
Like,
duality
you're not from anywhere.
the duality of our experience in life is so interesting. But anyway.
It is. Yes.
So obviously, as I referenced many times in the interview, we met in the Nigerian Law School.
Good times.
Ekib's road there was more planned out, more strategic, more smart. Mine was a spur of the moment. Well, and I think people get scared of law school. This thing is only 12 months.
Only 12 months, like
You're
legit
not
a calendar year.
You're not in the school half the time because you have attachment, you have Christmas, you have a break in between bar one and bar two. Nigerians, being the educationalists they are, feel, and I'm not saying they're wrong, that foreign trained attorneys and foreign trained law students are not up to snuff enough to go into bar two. That's just what it is. I don't care if people disagree with me on that. That's what it is. They feel like you don't have the foundational Nigerian legal knowledge, which is largely true.
In a way.
So they make you do a bar one course, which is like a crash course of all types of different Nigerian legal subjects. Fine, good. Most of the people there are from the UK because this is why I think Nigerian-American lawyers should do this too, have perfected the system. They know about the system, their friends are doing it. Everybody who does law, who goes to the UK knows, okay, you can get this pipeline into the Nigerian law school and become a barrister that way. Just because of colonization, Britain and Nigeria have a lot of educational similarities, whatever. And Ekib and I were older, not because we're just older, but because law is a second degree in America.
In America, exactly.
At first, I was stunned.
I was shook. I was shook.
First degree in Nigeria.
I was like, I'm sorry, this is my third. Somebody said to me, you must really like to be a lawyer. I'm like, not really.
No.
I'm like, what? I'm like, they're like, this is your third degree in law. And I say, wait, you are correct. What? But I think that's true. And it's like the reason why people in the Nigerians who study in the UK have it easier, not have it easier, but have a better understanding of doing it, because that's their plan from the beginning. The majority of bar one students who went to school in the UK, even the ones who went from in Ghana or Gambia or whatever, that was their plan. And it's also because, like you said, it's a first degree, right? So you know that you have to go through the law school process. Like you have to go through like the law school faculty, let's say that's an undergrad, and then get into law school. But then also a lot of people did the UK because the UK is a 3-year program, whereas Nigeria itself is a 5-year program of law. And if you make the misfortune, I'm sorry, of going to a public school in Nigeria that succumbs to strike, that 5-year program could be easily become a 10-year program, right? So a lot of people who have the means and are able to go to the UK because it's a 3-year program. And then after you get the foundational knowledge of law, you now come and get the law school program. I wish the US did it this way, because I think it would make it a little bit easier for you to be practice ready. Because I feel like that 1L, 1L thing would not exist if law was a faculty in undergrad. And then you do the one. And it can be. It really can be. Because pretty much everything we're learning 1L year of law school, you can teach through 4 years of college. Like 1L year, 2L year, you can teach them. Because the one thing I will say I liked about Nigerian law school was the structure of it. I like the fact that when you actually got to the bar part 2, they're not teaching you law.
Yes.
They're teaching you how to practice.
We're working to pass an exam.
Exactly.
It's a long bar course to me.
Right. But not even that you're working to pass an exam, you're working to practice, because even the bar exam is practice questions.
Yes.
Because when I came in,
yes.
I was
like for real.
I was like, we're used to the bar questions from the US where it's a hypothetical. Right? Analysis, conclusion, rules, all that stuff is a hypothetical. And that's good. That's good for you to learn foundational law. Perfect. But one thing I appreciate about Nigerian law school was they already understand that you already have the foundational law, right? All of the classes Yes, it was all about application because it was practice of property law practice, corporate practice, civil practice. It was all practice, practice, practice. They were teaching you how to be a lawyer. So I think that's why Nigeria, when you graduate from law school in Nigeria and you want to be a lawyer, you're better prepared to practice law, right? You have no reason to not be practice ready because they have done. I remember when we went to do the what's that thing called? Like, we had to present on our court and court attachment. They asked me to do a motion. I said, excuse me?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, we had to remember, like, you had to present a motion. Like, okay, you have to do an ex parte motion. How does that go? And I'm like,
of course.
And he's like drafting motions in a bar exam.
I would say that a lot of people were like, oh, you've already done law school. This is gonna be easy for you. And I'm not saying there were some aspects of like the grind of it that I was already used to. Right?
Yeah.
I think this, of all the legal things I've done, was quite challenging because we don't draft anything in America. Like that was a shocking. Like, you have to know at least 100, because you never know what's gonna come out. Drafts at any given moment, which was real.
You know what my secret was? I didn't stress about good drafting. I learned this because I used to do a lot of those practice exams, and I looked at how they graded, and I was like, the majority of the points was not in the body of the writing. It wasn't. The majority of the points was in the heading and conclusion. So I learned all the headings and conclusions.
Where were you when I needed to know this?
I was like, that's what I was doing. So when people were like, did it? I was just like, no, because, and once again, like I said, I'm good at school.
Yeah, you are.
I don't think I'm a genius, but I think I'm good at school. I can navigate school. So I knew what worked for me when I was in law school in the US. And I think also because of the way my law school in the US worked, it was also to get us practice ready. And it was a law school for people who had great grades in college, but were not good at standardized testing. Because I didn't have a great LSAT score. Standardized testing has never been my thing, but if you look at my transcripts, I'm a genius. So I kind of had to figure out how to prepare for like the bar exam. Like I studied a lot harder for the bar exam because I was like, I'm only doing this once. So the things that I had learned from my law school in the US, I took that same grind into Nigerian law school. And then I realized, oh, wait a minute, I don't have to grind this hard. Like, cause I was like, after bar one, I was like, oh, I need to go to the library. I was just like, okay, no, they said bar one is pass fail. I said, all right, cool. And when I started like looking at practice questions and the way they were questioning, I was like, okay, that's fine. Like, I remember I taught my ex, I taught him bar one in like a week or so, or less, like all of bar one.
Yeah.
And that was how I was learning. But for bar two, I came in with, okay, this is law school. So where the case books, where and I was like, oh, once again, what I did was I immediately went and got practice questions. Past questions.
Listen to this, please.
I went and got past questions like that first couple of weeks because I wanted to know, how do you test? And if I know how you test, I know how to study and I can bypass all this unnecessary stuff. And one thing I learned when I was preparing for the bar in 2016 was there's but so many ways you can ask the same question. If I see enough past questions, I will understand how you ask the question. So because I got those past questions and I kind of saw the format, I was like, oh, I don't have to do too much. Like I still studied. I'm not gonna lie. I still studied, especially like during court attachment and everything. I definitely studied that little handbook they gave because I didn't buy the textbooks. Did not. I bought like one for each class, but I was like, this is stupid because I knew, once again, to me, the handbooks were key because if you realize every class had like 1 million textbooks, right? It'd be each of the teachers writing your own book, like, oh, buy my book, buy my book, buy my book. But law school, the exam is the same for all 6 campuses. So if my teacher, Oluwanani, is not teaching in Lagos, so his questions cannot come directly from his book. His questions have to come from the handbook because that's what everybody has. Exactly. So my focus was the handbook. Screw all them textbooks. That's nice. I'm not practicing in Nigeria no time soon, so y'all can keep that. I want to know this handbook. And the handbook was what helped me pass like did well in in Nigerian Law School, because I was focused on that. It just made it a little bit easier. It was still a grind. Don't get me wrong. I was still up, because me and Phasia, we studied. Okay, like we were still in there with the little lounges or the little libraries or wherever those places were, with no light and bugs.
If you're going to Nigeria and you do bar one, you might have a false sense of confidence. Oh, bar one wasn't difficult. I passed barely. No, honey, sweet cakes. Listen to old aunties. You can't. It's not that kind of thing that you can judge 2 weeks before finesse.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a genius and you don't need to study and you have a photographic memory, maybe. But you at least, as Ekib is saying, need to understand the pattern. And for no other educational institution that I've ever been in have the past questions been more important.
Absolutely.
You didn't do that. I don't know. Listen, you
I
have
don't know
to get more on that.
Yes, because I mean, like, and I tell people too, teachers, professors, they are human beings. And what are human beings? Lazy. They don't want to work. No tea, no shade. They don't. Some of them, I remember there was one teacher who used to fall asleep in class. You know who I'm talking about.
We won't
listen to us. Do those past questions. Like that's the best way for you to understand, especially when you're coming from a country that teaches completely opposite, right?
Yes.
I feel like the students who studied in England or in Europe had more of an advantage than we did, because it was the same learning style. We had to rewire our brains completely, right? Because the questions that we're asking were not they weren't asking questions the way we were used to. The way we're used to questions, our multiple choice questions is, here's a hypothetical, now tell us how the court will rule in one of these 4 questions. Or your essay is, here's this long fact pattern of 5 paragraphs, now pick out every single issue, right?
That's what
pick out every single issue, give us a rule analysis and conclusion for each one, how will the court rule, and then have the nerve, the audacity, the effrontery to say, and maybe one question is this, and then the second one is, now let's change this one fact. How does this thing change? You know it changes everything. Shut up. You know what I'm saying? But it's not like that in Nigerian law school. In Nigerian law school, it's okay. Your multiple choice questions are like, the one I can remember the best is like professional responsibility. Like, whose picture is on the wall in the courthouse, on the courtroom? And the answer is like nobody. You know what I'm saying? Because nobody's above the law. That was the answer. I remember that.
Like where the judge sits and
exactly.
Trick question. There is no jury.
There's no jury.
There's no
jury. Or like, okay,
why are we thinking out over this?
Like whose case gets called first? Body of benchers and senior advocate of Nigeria, the person who came to the courtroom first. You know it's not the person who came first. Like, so stuff like that.
What he's saying is exactly the type of question. And things that you could actually know, not by reading a book, but okay, you went to the court one day for attachment, and you noticed.
Yes, that was it. Because I remember I think the other classes, like those questions did not stick in my head, but them professional responsibility ones, because I remember there was a question they asked about outfits, like what people. So I was just like, what color were those?
I get confused. Like, wait a minute.
I was like,
the answer to this, but can't they wear gray trousers?
I remember seeing them with gray trousers with the pinstripe, right?
We're going to talk about dressing regularly, but it's confusing because in court, not everyone is compliant. So if you're a law student looking at that, thinking it's correct, it might not be. So
exactly. But that's why I think, like, I was like, the Nigerian law school system, I preferred it to the American law school system, because it really did they put their money where their mouth is. Yes. Like, teaching you all these things, and then when they made you go to court attachment, no matter how annoying it was or how disorganized it could have been sometimes, you were truly able to see what, you're able to see your education in play, right? You were truly able to see it. So it kind of helped. It really did help.
I feel like me, you, and another girl from America were like the first to be, yes, Phaedra was there. And we were like the first to be in the registration. And I remember you were in uniform, she was, and so was I. And we were like the only the people who aren't used to a uniform, but we're so like, oh my God, we need to do everything right. Because I remember you were like, no, school isn't starting today. I just have this memory of you saying that. It's like,
yeah.
I happen to know everything. And you were very involved in the law school. And I would say you were like friends with everybody and people really like respected and liked you. That's my remembering of you in the Nigerian Law School. And I have to say, for me, as I've said, Nigerian-Americans are the minority.
Yes, absolutely. It was like only like 5 or 10 of us, if that.
Huge minority. So always comforting, even though we might not have always been doing like the same thing, it was always comforting. Like, I can look at you and I can understand that you understand that I'm confused.
We're just out here trying to make it.
It got better.
It did.
What do you feel about the whole thing?
The whole thing, like the social aspect of it. So, okay, like I don't want to be embarrassed, okay? And I just feel like I always had this fear of someone snatching my Nigerian card. So before going to Nigerian law school, I was very scared, very paranoid of not knowing something, or because I hadn't studied in Nigeria for almost like, for, you know what I'm saying, for a very long time. At least 16, 17 years. And so I did a lot of research. Like I would like Google Nigerian law school because I didn't know we had to wear a uniform. I remember my cousin, she was in the law faculty. So she was doing law in the undergrad and I saw her wearing black and white all the time. So I asked her, she's like, oh yeah, you guys don't wear black and white. I was like, girl, we wear jeans. What are you talking about? Like, you want me to come? I was so confused. I'm like, I gotta dress up to go to class. Like in law school, I would dress up because I wanted to, not because I had to. First of all, it's hot. So I had to I did a lot of research on that to figure out, okay, well, how does that work? And then also the fact that I did not know how, like the whole bar one aspect and things like that. So there were a lot of blogs and stuff that I read that kind of helped me prepare for coming to law school. So that was helpful. But the social aspect of it was in bar one, like you said, we were the minority. So I couldn't relate to a lot of the things that these students who studied in England were saying. And then also too, I realized there's money and then there's money. And I'm not in either one of those categories. Okay? Because there were students that had just, for your parents just to pay, like your parents live in Nigeria, but they're paying for you to go to school.
In England.
In England. They pay.
England is twice the expense.
I'm like, shoot, I went to school in the US, but I had scholarships, I had some loans. I don't think my parents came out of pocket. And I was like, oh, wow. So they had different experiences as well. And so there were students there who had been born and raised in England. And there are people who were just like, no, we just went there.
Exactly.
Just went for school and came back, or, we travel, we do this. And I'm just like, what was I doing? Okay. So that was also a culture shock in a way, like the way other people live. And like Nigerians have money, like, that there's money in the country, but also when you're used to like your family members asking you for stuff all the time, you kind of forget. And so then you come across it and you're like, oh, this is interesting. Like so the way that was a shocker for me. The social aspect of it was very different because, like you said, it wasn't that many Nigerian Americans there. So I couldn't understand their cultural I couldn't understand the things that they went through, how that worked. And then also they were so much younger.
Yes.
I remember I was talking to somebody who was, yes, like there was someone there who's like 23 and I was like, oh, okay. But then there was some people that are like 20. And I was like, I'm sorry, excuse me? When did you finish school?
23 I can deal with. I'm like 26, 27. It's fine.
Yeah. 20. I'm like, So that was also a huge thing, because I remember like one of my really close friends in law school was like significantly younger than me, you know. So that was very interesting. But the social thing really took heed. There was this unspoken competition in bar one, right? And I was like, why are we all forming? Like, we all studied outside of the country. Everybody has a passport that's stamped. Everyone is walking around here with iPhone 6s. Like, we good. Like, who you trying to stunt on, you know? Because, and it was certain things that was just like, this is so unnecessary, right? Like, people were doing, some people, not all, but I think that some people were doing too much to establish that they studied out of the country. Like, we know you did. We all did, right? And then in bar one was shocking to me. In bar part two was like, okay, then remember there was that head-on collision between bar one people and bar two people. It was a whole thing.
I'm just saying bar one, not me, because I found that whole thing.
I wasn't included. Like, I know we weren't included. And I think this is what I realized too. The Nigerian-Americans, I think it was just me and you, we were not involved.
No, and I noticed that throughout.
We were not involved because, first of all,
we know what it's like to be discriminated.
Okay. And I think what helped me too was I didn't live on campus. I would go to class, get food, go home. Like,
it was so different, and it was good for me personally.
It was perfect. It was perfect not to live on campus. So yeah, so that was interesting. But I remember too, like it kind of, when we did bar part two, that whole thing of not being Nigerian enough kind of popped up again. Because I remember, like, no matter how long like I had been in Nigeria, no matter how much I identified as being Nigerian, there was still something like, you know, I used to speak with a Nigerian accent all the time. So people were like, oh my God, da, 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 da. So there were some people who said they did not know that I studied outside the country, which I was very, you know, I was like, I did it. But I remember when I went to do a presentation. No, was it a presentation? Yes.
We both presented on this day.
Yes. When I went to, and the teacher was just like, I don't know if people understand what she was saying. And she kept asking me questions because everybody got one question, but I was being grilled on questions. Because I remember, like, I walked up there because I had my laptop, because, you know, I used to type them notes, baby. And so she was trying to ask me all these questions, and I had all the answers, and I was just like, are you trying to, like, make me look stupid? I didn't understand what the point of that was. And then I remember when I think Dami died, and I went to make an announcement about her funeral or like planning, and it was already a very emotional time. And I know that when I speak to Nigerians, when I speak to Africans, I can always speak with a Nigerian accent. It just comes out naturally. But when I'm doing some type of a presentation, when I'm talking to somebody, this is my customer service voice, you know? So this is the voice that you hear. And I know I made that announcement, and there was a guy who came up behind me, was like, for those of you who I know you people didn't understand what she was saying, because I didn't understand what she was saying. And I was just like, I'm already hurt. I'm already hurt. I'm already crying. I'm already sad. We just lost a classmate. Did you really have to go and be rude about it too? Like, I walked out of class that day. Like, I walked straight to the back and just stayed in the back and cried. Because I was like, I'm already hurt, and you just try to embarrass me in front of all these people? What's wrong with you?
And I find that really, really interesting, because I remember there was a day, I think it was in bar 2, where for some reason, it might not be the day you were talking about with the other presentation, we both presented on the same day.
Yeah.
So, okay.
All the accents.
In fairness to the other students,
yeah,
there's this whole perception, especially in bar 2, that a lot of people are faking their accents.
Yes.
But I'd like to point out that for you and me, this is just how
this is it.
So I think some of the bar 2 students felt they were always wrong. That some people in bar 1 were always faking their accents to
they were not wrong
or whatever. So you have Ekib, who's been in America for years. Me going back to back in a presentation, and I just remember the whole room erupted in like laughter.
Yeah.
Laughter.
That is so funny.
And by this point, I was more hardened. Like bar 1,
yeah.
But I remember that day specifically because it's like, it's also a weird part of Nigeria. You hail certain foreign things and everything you do, but it's also ridiculed.
Yes.
It's a weird, like,
it's a weird paradox
that I can't articulate.
It's a very weird paradox because, like, imagine, okay, like, I think somebody told me I was too ras when I was in Nigeria, like in law school, because I was tired of eating rice. So I said, okay, let me go and buy gari. I bought gari. I bought pure water. I bought sugar. I bought granite, and I sipped gari in mommy. Ekib, the way you're behaving, people will not even know that you studied in there abroad. I said, who cares? Who cares? What am I proving? To who? To what? What does that do for me? I'm coming here as a Nigerian first. I'm not an American Nigerian. I'm a Nigerian American. And so for me to be made fun of in the US for being too Nigerian, and then come to Nigeria and be made fun of for being too American, it's just like, bruh, where do you fit in?
And you don't, and that's fine. Like, you can't please everybody. Someone's gonna think you're faking. My thing that bothered me a lot, because I'm just not like this. Oh, so many people in bar two. Oh, I didn't want to talk to you because I thought you'd be snobby. You'd be this.
Yeah.
Only knew the internal crises going on in my head at a daily. That is far, I hope, from what I actually represent. That I took that, I was always really offended by that.
Yeah.
So you're basing that off an accent. You're also assuming that I've never had any challenges in my life.
Absolutely.
Just because they don't mirror or validate your own.
Exactly.
And I think we as Nigerians have to recognize that, unfortunately, due to so many things that are not in our control, so many of us are gonna be like us. You know, and may want to connect and may want to experience things and may want to be part of something. Obviously, knowing that you guys should have the center floor when it comes to talking about certain issues. Nigerian-Americans in some things need to not say anything because you're not
there. Exactly.
And from living here, I can understand why some Nigerians get pissed about certain things. But when you have a genuine person who's trying to connect with you, laughing at them, making them feel like they don't belong when they already feel that from the country they're coming from, and you are their kindred countrymen, you can have differences, but I think you can address that person with respect.
Absolutely.
And with a sense of respectful curiosity.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's true because, like, I remember this. I had the same conversations with people in bar two because I did not know that there was like a bar one, bar two girl fight that had happened at one point.
I was not aware of any of this stuff.
So it happened, I think, the beginning of bar two, like in the beginning stages. So this like unspoken like animosity just kind of like
such a waste of time and a shame. We could all have been like vibing together, studying for the exam.
You know what I'm saying? I do think though that it kind of got better as the year progressed. Because you're living with people, you're going to whatchamacallit, Elam, to what's that place?
Elam.
There's Elam, Levitos, yes. You're going to Levitos, you're hitching rides into town with people and stuff like that. So I do think it definitely got better. But I agree. I definitely had people have the same conversation with me. It's like, oh, I didn't think you would be nice. Which is, for you to say you didn't think I would be nice is hilarious to me because I legit walk around just smiling at people.
You did. I think anyone who was there with you would agree with that. Yeah.
And I was like, even my cousin was like, what is wrong with you? Why just walk around smiling? I was like, I don't know. Like,
your vibe is nothing but friendliness. Yeah.
Looking at me in my face, I would smile, so you know I'm not, because I don't want to have resting bitch face. So I don't know what my face looks like to y'all, but if I'm smiling, I know that you hopefully, because I remember there was some girls I walked by, I smiled at them and they just looked me up and down and walked away, and I was like, oh, okay, never mind. Turns out these girls ended up being in my group, and
leader of the group, right?
I was leader of the group in bar one. In bar two, in bar two, I tried to contest because I was like, oh, you know, I did bar one, and I wasn't trying to do like say it like, oh, I did bar one, and I think maybe some people took it as that, like and I was just trying to say, I was like, oh no, you know, I did bar one with these same teachers, and I know how they do things. So if you like, I can help, right? And I think they took it as me trying to be like,
I did bar one.
I did, exactly. Exactly. So literally, because I remember there was a time when I made a suggestion about something and everyone ignored me, and then somebody else said it in a Nigerian accent, and they were like, "Oh my God, yes, great idea." And I was like, "For that." So then,
Happened a few times.
so in bar two, I kind of like stepped back from like doing group leader stuff. It wasn't until like I don't know what it was. Like we had a little subgroup in our group, and they were like, "She speaks really well. Ekib, you should do the presentation." She's like, "No,
Don't call me now.
don't call me now.
You
Please, you do it.
You speak well too.
You speak. Your English is very on point, my brother. Go ahead.
They may not understand me, remember? They won't understand me.
Exactly. So, but I did have those conversations with people who were like, "Oh wow, I thought you were gonna be like snobby or rude." I'm like, I don't have. And I think also it comes from understanding being discriminated upon. Not saying that people who went to school in the UK were not discriminated upon. They were in their own right, they were. But I think also is a lot of folks there went for 3 years and came. So for those of us who lived in the US, and then also just being older, like I've done all this. Like I've seen the drama, I've seen the personalities, I've done all this. And that's why like when I went, I was like, I am living off campus. I can't do roommates at my big age. I'm sorry.
That was a big thing for me. I was like, I can't.
I couldn't do it. I learned I couldn't do it. So that's why I was just very much so like out of all of that drama and all of that. Like I didn't know there was a lot of drama going on, did not know until a little bit after.
Now I was like, oh, okay.
I was just like, bro, because I was like, my own is just, I'm not repeating this thing again. Yeah. Like, I just want to be done. So,
we pass or fail. I was like, we're done after this.
Bruh, I was like, I'm not like to say, like, come back and do what?
But I will say, bar 1 and bar 2 are like one of the best like experiences of my life.
Absolutely.
All the like negativity from a certain subset of people.
Yes.
There are tons of other people who didn't care or they're just teasing you a bit. They don't really mean it. But it was so eye-opening to go to Nigeria, like without my parents, as being around other young people, hearing slang.
Yes, learning.
Was not the difference in me before going and after. Not saying that I know everything or knew everything at the time, but there's no way I could have had that life experience. So I'm always like grateful for it. And most of the people there were cool, incredibly smart. I always say this.
Oh my God.
Geniuses. Like so smart.
Right. I agree. And I think like that when people ask me, and I'm like, yeah, I had a great time. It was like I had more good days than I had bad days. Like I truly enjoyed my time there because like you said, you're being around young Nigerians, you're in the trenches and you're going through school. Like going through school with any group of people bonds you, right? Because you're going through the same thing, you're learning all that. And then you're learning from people with completely different experiences. Like the Cameroonians.
Also all the vibe and also
all the vibes. And they were like my neighbors. Like I didn't know. And funny thing is like Cameroon, literally, you can walk from my village into Cameroon. I'm not even joking. That's how close it is. And I didn't know much about it. Man, they brought me chocolate. We were vibing. We were good times. And then, then there were the Gambians, then the Ghanaians.
Also, so nice. All nice. From other African countries were
super nice, super fashionable. Like
those 2 girls who were always.
Yes, the Gambian girls, and I'm still mad that we all thought they were twins, and they're not even related. Not even related. They were just like best friends, and I was like, look at us, racist. Just because you're from Gambia together, you guys are together.
The same thing we do.
Exactly. I was like, just racist. We were, but I think like it was just such a good time. It was a great time. I truly, truly, truly enjoyed it. Like I had ups and downs. I'm not gonna lie, I did, but. All in all, minus a few things, it was a great experience. Like, I don't think I would have had that same kind of like, there's no way I could have gone to get that same life lesson and life experience. And just to be able to say like, I left my parents, right? Like I moved from South Carolina, went to school in North Carolina. Okay, that's fine. But my parents were like 3 hours away. I could always like drive back and forth, whatever. But to go to a completely different time zone, okay? Cross an entire ocean and be in a place where you have to be aware at all times. and dealing with stuff, experiencing things, like, child, I loved it. I truly enjoyed my time at Nigerian Law School. I'm never gonna lie, I did.
We had a time. We really
Had
did.
a time. Sure did.
Oh God, the memories. I'm gonna try and find some pictures and put it in this thing.
If I find some, I'll send to you.
Please do. But wrapping up, sadly, Nigerian Law School ended. You went back. Now, did you go back to South Carolina, or I know you're in Atlanta now?
In Atlanta now, yeah.
So can you just tell us your career trajectory, what education has done for you?
Listen, let me tell you, I had a plan. My plan was, when I left Nigeria, I was trying to find a job immediately, but nobody was hiring me because, first of all, I didn't have a US number. They're like, who this girl?
Yeah. So, WhatsApp is not so popular in America.
It's not that popular. People were not using it like that. But funny enough, now people are, because now people are. But what was it? Okay, so I was trying to find a job. It was hard, but thankfully, I remember on my flight, like, I took what airline? Emirates. I took Emirates back to the US. And my friend from law school, a classmate from law school, had posted in this group chat I was in that her job was looking for attorneys. So I am literally doing the application at the airport in Dubai. Just send it off. And so my plan was, I'll stay in South Carolina with my parents for 6 months, do something to kind of get me while I try to find a job in Atlanta, because I was licensed in Georgia. But by the grace of God, I was able to, once I sent that application, within a week or so, I was called for an interview. And yeah, so I legit I only spent maybe 2 weeks in South Carolina before I had to move to Georgia. So God is just good. So I started working as a public defender. So I was doing criminal defense. But what a public defender does is you represent people who cannot afford to hire an attorney. So we represented them for free, and then the state or the county paid our salaries. I did that for about 3 years, and it was very interesting to me because I did not want to be in court. I was like, I don't want to be in court. I want to be behind somebody's desk pushing papers. I don't want to do all this. But I needed a job, and they were the first people to call me. They were the only ones who called me. Nobody else did. So I was like, okay, well, God, you must want me to go there. So I went, and I'm glad I did. And it gave me valuable experience. Because for me, I never want to do criminal defense. Like, jail scares me. The thought of people going to prison scares me. I can't even watch prison shows. That's how scared I am of it. And the Lord is funny, because my first week, they were like, all right, let's go to the jail. I was like, It's like, your job is specifically to do court in the jail. I'm like, no, inside the jailhouse? Like, okay, cool. So it knocked that fear out of me. And I think one thing about going to Nigerian Law School, and I'm not saying that Nigerian Law School is like jail, but
I know
it's the fact that you can be removed from a place of comfort and put in a place that should make you uncomfortable, but you learn, you adapt, you grow. And I think that's what I got from this. So there's a level of confidence that walked into it, because it's like, as a Nigerian, babes, you can't talk to me anyhow. You cannot. Okay, so it definitely gave me that confidence. And it's also a very interesting topic when you're doing an interview. They're like, "You're in law school in Nigeria?" Yes, I did.
Yeah, it is. It's a party conversation.
It is a party. It's still like, why? And the thing about it is, non-lawyers are like, "Oh, that's cool." Lawyers are fascinated. Like, why would you put yourself through law school again? Like, non-lawyers are fascinated. Lawyers are intrigued and slightly disturbed. Like, why would you do that? And I just want to know, like, I want to open up your brain and see how it works, because clearly it's not working correctly. So I did that. I practiced as a public defender for about 3 years. I got burnt out. I got burnt out really quickly. The caseload was a lot, and things were getting heavy, and I felt it was very monotonous. And I was like, so I left. I went and became a personal injury attorney, which was more what I thought I wanted to do, in terms of sitting behind a desk, sending emails, drafting. I didn't go to court a lot. I was like, this isn't it. I'm sorry, Jesus. This can't be it. This is not what you had for me. I was like, I'm going to give it a year. I gave it a year. After a year, I was like, nope, sorry. And guess what I did? I went back to criminal defense. But now I'm in private practice. Okay. So it's a little bit more regulated. I can choose my clients, right? They choose me, I choose them. So I don't have to have a caseload of 300. I think right now, I have like maybe 40 cases in that, or 30. I don't even know, but it's better. It's it's easier for me and my peace of mind. So that's what we're doing now. Back to a criminal defense attorney.
Love it. And I love how you didn't want to do it initially.
Exactly. I didn't.
But now you've worked out a situation that isn't courthouse in the jail.
Yes.
Applying all those things you learned from that experience into a more palatable experience for you.
Absolutely. Yes. That's literally it. Literally it.
Law isn't all you do, Ekib. You had a very impactful to me personally podcast with the people excellently creatively titled name, alliteration for days, Afros and Ankara. I want to know, there haven't been any episodes.
They have not. Okay, they have not. They have not.
Demand to know. Also, if you want to know more about the Nigerian Law School, women's rights, like you need to listen to the
It's on there. I did. And you know what it was? So Afros and Ankara was birthed during the pandemic when we were all at home. And funny enough, when I was in Nigeria, I started a blog. I think I'm just meant to do something like this, and I just don't do it. I don't know what it is. I started a blog when I was in Nigeria called The Fat Girl That Went to Nigeria. Because when I was in Nigeria, everyone called me fat. And they did. They were like, you're like, why are you so fat? Oh my God, you're so fat. So if you want to look at it, it's like The Fat Girl That Went to Nigeria. It's like a blog, it's on Blogspot or something. If you Google my name, it pops up. I'm not lying.
In preparation for this.
Yeah.
It's surely up there.
I had that and I was like, I really liked doing it, but when I was in law school, I couldn't do it because I had to like focus on school. And so when I came back, I love talking to people. That's why this interview is over 2 hours long. I like talking, I like interacting, I like doing things that get people involved. And so during the pandemic, I was bored. I needed to do something. And I was like, okay, yeah, sure, I could do a podcast. So I started doing the podcast and it was great. It was really fun. And I had so many ideas and I still have them. It's all on my phone. Like it's legit on my phone, all the ideas. And I'm going to bring it back. I know I am. I said that in 2022 and it's 2023, but I'm definitely going to work on it this summer. I'm definitely going to do it because I had a really good time just learning about it. And I wanted to do something that was a little bit different from what I didn't listen to a bunch of podcasts. So I don't like steal somebody's idea. And honestly, to goodness, somebody else had a podcast and that's kind of where I started because I listened to your podcast. I could do that too. Yeah. So it was you and your sister. I downloaded, what is it? Podbean, Spotty Bean, something Bean, so I could listen to the podcast.
We're always doing the same thing. Nigerian Law School podcast.
But it was fun. It's very fun. I'm trying to figure out how to kind of like go from it, like not go from like kind of expand it because it's just me talking. It could be. I mean, we'll see. It's just me talking, and I'm trying to kind of figure out how to push it because I was in a completely different space in 2020, right? There was a lot going on. We were in a pandemic. There was, the Black Lives Matter movement was at an all-time high, women's rights, all of that. There was just so many things happening that I wanted to talk about. And I just didn't want it to be too heavy. I wanted it to be fun. I wanted it to be
It's a great mix of being funny, like very funny.
Also, you have a very like candid, you just say things as you say, and it's sometimes things that need to be said.
Thank you.
I think that voice is very necessary, especially with all your Nigeria, you've lived in America, you went back to Nigeria. You just have so many, you were a criminal defense lawyer, you've seen unfairness. All aspects. I think you just have a very important voice that could do a lot of stuff.
Yes, I'm going to this summer, like this, I'm
glad you're saying this on camera.
I know, right? Because that way I can't go back. Because you'd be like, girl, remember?
I have the evidence exhibited.
You said it. And it's so funny. And I think God is really trying to call me back into doing it because you're not the only person that has asked me about it. And because I remember like, I would look at it, there was somebody in Germany. I was like, I think that was my friend. That was my friend who lives in Germany. So I was just like, people have asked me like, what happened to my little sister? I just saw her last weekend. And like we talk about stuff, but she was like, when are you doing your podcast again? I'm just like, oh yeah, we can like that. Okay. Cause because the thing about it is like, when I'm just here talking to myself and people are, so you don't really know who's listening. And your friends ask you about it because, they're your friends. So they want to know like, what's going on and things like that. But I have a friend who she's so supportive. I love her dearly. But she would tell me, she's like, I didn't listen to your podcast. She's like, I was so busy. And I understood, like, she had a baby. She had a baby. So I was like, I get it. So she was like, but I'm glad you're doing it. But she also was asking, like, what happened to your podcast? You still doing that? Like, what's going on there? So I'm going to work on it.
I know you will.
I'm going to work on it.
And maybe you even go on TikTok. Like, who knows
where this could go? But it's so funny because you want to know where the name Afros and Ankara came from?
Yes, that was the question. Yeah.
When I was graduating law school, I didn't take graduations as seriously as in college than when I did law school graduate. Because I'm like, no, I earned this.
Yes.
I worked for this. So I was very proud of myself for not only I only made it through with one breakdown. I think I only had one breakdown. I was proud. That was commendable. Like, maybe two. I passed out in school one time, then I had a break. Okay, yeah. So there you go. Like, I did. That was one L year. But I made it, so I was so proud. So I did a photo shoot and I wore this Ankara dress because
Got you. I get it.
So when I took the picture and I wanted to post it, I made a caption because all I saw was my afro and my Ankara. So it was Afros and Ankara.
Oh.
And I thought it was the perfect blend of who I was as a person. Like the Ankara obviously represents me being African. And the afro truly represents me being Black. Right?
Yes, I was just thinking that. And
all that means in all ways. Black as a Black American, Black as a Black African, just Black. And I think because Afro, it's Blackness encompassed no matter where you are, whether you are a Black person born in the Caribbean, Black person born in England, India, wherever. Our hair grows that way, like that. Now, Ankara is more specific to Africans, right? You don't see it now you see it outside, but
now you see it.
Now it's everywhere, but its origination, we kind of made it our thing. So that's why I did Afros and Ankara, because it's truly encompasses who I am.
The layers. There are layers to all these things. And as you can see, there are many layers to this wonderful lady sitting in front of us on the screen, who's given us 2 hours of her life, even though she's a criminal defense lawyer. They work on Saturdays.
Bruh. That's why my phone was on Do Not Disturb, because they will call me. They will call and be surprised.
I just want to say thank you so much for this. Obviously, we've known each other, but there's so many things about you I've learned just now that I didn't know, that I wish I had known then, so maybe we could have talked about it. But I'm glad that I was able to get this in-depth view of you and all the things you've been through. Because like you said, you always present a very positive, cheery profile to the world, which is great. Mm-hmm. You always have a positive outlook, but I didn't know that you went through some of the challenges that you did. And look at you now.
Look at me now. Look at us now. Look at us now. We made it. Okay. Because it's so interesting to think, if you could go back and you can look at yourself when you were 10 or 12, would you imagine that this is the way your life would be?
For me, no. Absolutely not.
But it's so because we grow up with this fantasy of how we want our lives to be, and then it just, God, like you say, you make a plan, God laughs. What I'm saying? And it's just
actually.
And it's just it goes in a completely different direction. So 12-year-old you or 10-year-old you may not have imagined it to be this way, but it's us now, it's oh my God, look how far we've come, look what we've done. You are a bicontinental attorney, you are now getting up there in your media mogulness, what I'm saying, trying to be the next Oprah. We see it. So yes, I'm just glad to be here. And I love, one thing I'm very excited about, and I'm truly proud of this platform that you're doing, is it truly shows the tenacity of a Nigerian. We think that we're in a box, but we're not. Like, we think we're in a box, but we truly are not. Because when I went to Nigerian law school, is when I learned that, oh, you can do this and you can do that. You can do a whole bunch of, like, you don't have to go this way. Like, it doesn't have to be like this. So for us to be lawyers and still trying to experience or still try to navigate in this like social media world or just regular like journalism or anything like that, something completely different. There's so many of our colleagues who finished, graduated, passed, who are doing so many different things: music, hair, makeup, all different types of things, acting, also doing media stuff. And it's just like, oh, we're not stuck. And I think it's so important for people to see that you can be, success is not one way, right? Like, going to school is helpful, absolutely, because it puts you in the company of other people, so that people who are not like-minded, so you can learn and you can adapt. You can see, oh, I didn't think about it that way. That actually makes sense. Or, yeah, you're crazy. Let me step over to this side. But it really does help to mold you, so that even if what you're going to school for is not the thing you end up doing, there are experiences that you will gain that will help you in your future. And I think that's why, like, when we were saying college isn't all about education like high school is, it's because you're in an environment with 30,000 people. A lot of your education happens outside of the classroom, and it's very formative, so it's very important. It's very, very important. So that's my little tidbit. Stay in school, kids, even if you don't like it. Stay in school, because you're going to learn something. It's going to put you. Yes, absolutely. Get the degree. You need the backup plan. You do. You need a fallback plan.
We don't like uncertainty. Get the backup plan. Then
get the backup. Then do whatever you want to do. That's what I'm here for. I'm sorry. I have become that auntie. I'm sorry.